In my mind, there's one choice for roofing around here, and I'd go with your best choice. Whether it's time to replace your roof or repair it, Best Choice Roofing provides top-notch roofing services tailored to meet the unique needs of Detroit homes and businesses. They serve the region and inside the city of Detroit, too. You can find out more at bestchoiceroofing.com/Detroit. That's bestchoiceroofing.com/Detroit, or call 313-474-7031. That's 313-474-7031. Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. It is Friday, June 20th, 2025. I am Jairus Days, coming to you from Techtown, which is east of where Devin O'Reilly is. Devin O'Reilly is back, man about town. It is so good to hear from you, my friend.
Thank you, Jaron. I am west of you. So good to be back. I'm west of you, as must be the case. I'm not going to divulge exactly. People can probably deduce, but I'm along the banks of the Rouge River. How about that?
Oh, wow. Are you going to start your own port authority?
I should. I mean, the Rouge is really cresting today. You know, we've got a lot of rain, so the Rouge is flowing mightily, but it's visible from where I'm at, a little bit west of you, downriver. Downriver, sure.
What about bringing back a Prohibition-inspired boat tour? You could just go down the Rouge and float to Canada.
Ooh, I like that. That would be, Jared. You're scratching me where I itch. Let me see if I can work on that and find some people who could support.
Well, I know that you have been busy, and one of the things you've been busy with is checking out some places around town. And off air, you were telling me a little about this, and I was like, "Oh, we got to get into this," because I did not realize what was down the street from you.
Yeah, it's different now because I have been, as I'm settling into the new gig here, which we've discussed on the show. But one of my favorite things about working downtown was being able to go to all the different restaurants and little shops for lunch, and I had my favorite places. And settling in now in Dearborn, I've had to find, I may live here, but I don't know about kind of the lunch spots because I'm never here for lunch. So I was kind of figuring out where to eat lunch around me. Obviously, Dearborn has plenty of places, but I came across the canteen at Midtown, which is in the old TGI Fridays space, basically on the ring of Fairlane, the ring around Fairlane, as colloquially called. And this place is awesome. It's basically kind of I think a lot of people maybe who are familiar with like Detroit Fleet collection of food trucks. So you have outdoor seating, you have a full indoor space with bathrooms, food stalls, seating, TVs, all that. You have outdoor space, and then you have all these kind of food trucks pulled up around it that are there as kind of a semi-permanent basis. So they're there every day. You can go there, order online, check out the menus. I have been making that my go-to, and I've tried probably 5 or 6 different places in the first couple weeks here, and they've all been delicious. I mean, they have everything from sushi to crepes to sandwiches to the amazing shawarma place to coffee to custard to Italian food. It's like a little bit of everything. I'm very pleased with what I've been able to discover here from my lunch options at the new gig.
Well, this sounds like a true food truck park as opposed to, and this is no knock against Detroit Fleet. I think Detroit Fleet's like 2 or 3 places. This sounds like a real, like when, you ever watch Great Food Truck Rally?
Yes, exactly.
I love that show. Unabashedly love that show. And I feel like that's the kind of thing that would be worth coming to, where you go there and it's like whatever anybody in your group wants, you can find something. I got to ask, though, and I know it's hard to pick favorites, but if somebody is listening to this, they can't eat 6 meals at once. What are the couple of places you'd pick first?
I've had a few shawarmas in my day, but Amo Sammy's shawarmas are incredible. They do them up. They're not necessarily maybe your traditional shawarmas because you might get seasoned fries in there. You might get the extra sauce, but the Amo Sammy's is a shawarma sandwich place. Amazing. Got to check that out. And then I really like the Terry Melt, it's called. That's not a specific sandwich. It's called the Terry Melt. But they've got a grilled chicken, buffalo honey sauce, lettuce, jalapeno, chive crema on like a sesame hoagie. It's so good. So those are my 2.
Now, what are the vibes of this place? Like, define the vibes, as opposed to, so often online people say there's vibes. Well, what vibes? So define the vibes.
I've seen some students come from U of M Dearborn. There's a good, healthy mix of different kinds of people there. And some people choose to kind of sit inside. The weather's been pretty nice, so there's been a lot of people who are sitting outside. I would say they do a pretty good lunch crowd. And I also know they stay open later. So, there's probably another crowd that comes around the dinner time, after work, things like that. So it's a very, very diverse crowd.
Staying open later is so important nowadays. Less and less places do that. And one of the cool things that I've noticed about Dearborn is that you definitely can find that there,
Yeah, if not a 24-hour economy, it's definitely pretty close just because of the nature of the city and how people work and hang out. There's, a lot of these coffee shops have become kind of third spaces that we always love to talk about. And so people just hang out there. And I've noticed, unrelated to the conversation, that the coffee shops in Dearborn are much, much more crowded at night than in the morning, which seems kind of counterintuitive to me as a coffee drinker. But when I go in there in the morning, very light crowds. When I drive by at night, packed. And I just think that's really interesting and really cool, and just keeps the vibe all the time. There's something going on. It's a really cool community to be a part of.
For those who may be venturing, right? Let's say somebody is listening to this and they are in the northern suburbs or the east side, like yours truly. What are the big roads? What is your get there tip?
It's pretty easy to get to. First of all, I think most people, whether you've gone in a few years or not, know where Fairlane Mall is. So it's right, around kind of in the circle of Fairlane Mall. It's right near U of M Dearborn. It's off of Evergreen Road, very close to the Southfield Freeway. So just off Southfield. It's right there. It's easy to get to, honestly. If you're coming from the north, you take Southfield. You could take 94 and then get off at Southfield, but basically there's an exit that spits you right out there near Evergreen. And because there's so many other attractions around here, like I said, the mall, the university, Henry Ford College, it's easy to get to. It's easy to find. They got a big mural outside. So yeah, come check it out. It's not weather permitting. I went there. It was raining the other day, and I went there and just sat inside, and the food trucks are still open. So I love the consistency.
Nice.
So what about you, Jerry? I know it's been a while since we've been able to connect on where you've been type of places. So where have you been?
All right. Well, I did an absurd thing last weekend. My partner had a bird day party, meaning a birthday, but we all dressed up as birds.
You're a big fan of birds. I want to know that. And I assume she is too. But I didn't know that about you. You are a big bird guy.
She was a resplendent quetzal. Look it up. Costa Rican bird. And I dressed up as her parakeet. So I was a budrigar. So I had a yellow feather hat, a green shirt. I did a tail made out of old ties. So birds have tails. But people went even deeper with it. Somebody showed up as a pigeon. Other people showed up as crows. And people were just asking us questions. We found a couple of people who were doing a really cool thing. They are from Austria, and they're driving from New York to LA. And so they were just passing through Detroit. Ended up at the human dog park that is the old Miami, and we're just fascinated. And people were just joining the party. It was pretty good. And here's another thing. So first off, loved the old Miami. You can go there. You can have a drink for a reasonable amount. You can have a good time. That backyard is great. And then the thing is, there's not food there. So if you're throwing an event, you can bring food. And I had the best experience with condado tacos I ever had. I was very happy. And there was also, get this, a chocolate raspberry torte that we brought in from Holiday Market. If you need a cake in a quick minute and you're able to run up to, say, Royal Oak, those Holiday Market cakes that are ready to go are actually really good. I was nervous because, right before the thing, you're like, oh, crap, there's no cake. Is it going to be some mess, right? No, nobody wants a dry birthday cake. This was a raspberry chocolate torte that was out of this world.
Well, that's clutch. And yes, Old Miami is, an absolute institution. Detroit's backyard, really. And that backyard is incredible. And it sounds like for people who, if they're Europeans in from out of town traveling from New York to Los Angeles, this would be the perfect spot for, I feel like a European would feel very at home in this odd backyard bird sanctuary of sorts. My question, Jerry, is I want to know about the vibe. It's been a while since I've been to Old Miami. And as we're getting older into our, geriatric millennial stage, I'm wondering what the mix of people is like at Old Miami around this time of year, around that time of day.
Okay, so this is one of the few places left in Detroit where I actually see a whole bunch of different people. So there was an African-American wedding party that some of the bachelors had come through. There were some people who were, I don't want to say sports bros, but very sports coded. You know what I mean? The jerseys, the hats, so sports coded. I'm going to assume very much into sports. There were some of like the super creative punk types. It was a really great mix. The DJs are awesome. And as the night went on, the night shifted, right? So you've got your earlier drinkers, but I did see a lot of younger faces as well, people in their 20s, kind of, being the neighborhood college bar that it is. And I love that it just still brings so many people together from so many walks of life, because who doesn't love an affordable drink and a space that, like, whoever you are welcome. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to mention. Some friends of the show wanted me to mention. I learned about this at the birthday party. There's actually going to be a Howdy Fest on Saturday. There's going to be Howdy Fest, which is going to be Detroit's only y'all-inclusive honky-tonk space. So
okay.
line dancing, but, very friendly to it literally says stud country, queer line dancing, and two-stepping. And that's going to be running from like 5 o'clock till close. And like, how absurd is that? Like, I mean that in a wonderful way. I love the things about Detroit that remain absurd. And that's one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to doing our get together, which looks like it's going to be in August on a Saturday. We're going to be doing a live show, all that kind of stuff. Cause it's just like, I love the ability where you can come as you are and just have a good time and not necessarily have to spend $1 bazillion.
That sounds great. It sounds like that they've kept their quirkiness, but kind of inviting some new opportunities, new people to experience it, which I think is fantastic.
Let's end the show with a little bit of news. And I saved this news for you, Devin O'Reilly, because you are, in my mind, in many ways, Mr. Business, right?
Mr.
You're always
Business. I'll take Mr. Friday, Mr. Business, little business and pleasure type of, yeah, okay.
Well, you're not only interested in the food side of things, but the business of food and the business of retail and those kind of things, right? Like something you've always seen how the two of them come together and make for the best experience. So 2 things that came into my inbox that I want to bring up. First off, Street Beat is going to be expanding into the suburbs. If you don't know Street Beat, they're a tasty vegan option that is taking over the old Bobcat Bonnie space in Corktown. They've been serving out of multiple places recently. They have found a forward-thinking hedge fund to join forces with to help them with their expansion into Birmingham. I believe they're going to be doing Rochester, Ann Arbor. The thing is this money will also go towards a food truck for catering and events, a series of cookbook zines, and a line of plant-based retail products. So that's number 1, to see them get some money. Who they're partnering with and how much was not disclosed. And then the other one I want to mention, K9 to 5 has been sold to the private equity group Pet Resort Hospitality Group, which owns 12 other pet care companies, 30 locations across the United States, according to reports. There aren't terms to the deal, but it's interesting to see somebody, founder Liz Blondie has been part of the community for a long time, stepping away from it after, I want to say, if my memory serves me, something like 20 years at K9 to 5. And it's interesting to see this and a number of other deals I have seen where we're starting to see outside money play in Detroit in a way that's been around in other places for a long time. But I think it's a vibe shift here in Metro Detroit.
Yeah, I know people will probably feel a certain way about this, but it's a good thing. It is a good thing. Congrats to Liz. She's been, working her butt off for years, building, this kind of K9 to 5 mini empire. When my wife and I lived in Midtown, Winnie would go to K9 to 5 often and had great experiences there. She created a really great experience with all of her locations that people loved, and good for her. She's retiring, quotation marks, at basically 50 years old, and this is a success story. So congrats to Liz for that. And then with Street Beat, this is how we have to move forward, I think, Jer. And it ties to our conversation about kind of the openings and closings of restaurants, and whether it be Bobcat Bonnie's or whether it be some of these one-off places that end up having to close. Money is tight. Margins are almost impossible in the restaurant industry. And so when you can get an opportunity for an infusion of cash and capital, you have to take it. And I think as long as you don't start to lose who you are, lose the ethos of who you are as a restaurant or who you are as a chef, having that extra capital is really, really helpful. It can help you kind of achieve your dreams. It can help you achieve the growth that you could never achieve on the minuscule margins that you're getting maybe at, your restaurant. So this is a pathway. This is an opportunity. You have to be kind of a business-minded, entrepreneurial type of chef, business owner, whatever, to do this, because obviously, you're engaging in private equity. That's that either requires having somebody on your team who is business savvy or being kind of business savvy yourself. So I don't know if everyone can go down this path, but it works. It's not a bad thing to have an infusion of cash and capital and to be able to execute things like food trucks in multiple locations. And if not for this, it wouldn't be possible for some of these people. And because again, the money's not there. And maybe, the initial money you had from friends and family was spent opening the first thing. And so this is positive, again, as long as you don't, step away too much and lose who you are. But I remember going to Street Beat when they were at 3rd Street, actually. They were kind of a pop-up at 3rd Street bar, and I enjoyed going there. And so I love to see their expansion. They seem like they have done really well for themselves. It'll be great to see them in Corktown and then expanding further. So I think this is all good news. I know people are going to have, a certain type of feel because private equity is kind of a 4-letter word to a lot of people, but it's good. This is the way forward in some ways, or this is at least a way forward for many small, independently owned restaurants.
I've gotten a lot of feedback on this one. I posted about it. A lot of people have a lot of feelings about private equity and the worry that it's just going to eat up these businesses. And I think one of the things, and I may have some conversations about this with some people that could be very interesting for the podcast, but it's very clear doing some research on this that in this economy, this is the way to exit for most people. This is the way that people look at a business and say, how can we grow it? How can we create a product? And the reality is if you want to get a product on a lot of shelves, you have to have the capital to do it. Think about the rise of Casamara Club recently, right? Like there's a reason you're starting to see them everywhere. And that takes money for distribution, for bottling, for all that other stuff. And I think that'll be the same thing with Street Beat, is to see them have the resources, because in reality, the margins on actual restaurants are very small. And you're not going to get the ability, you're not going to have the free capital. The Bobcat Bonnie's has basically, they're basically done. I don't know for sure if their spot in Lansing is done. I know that there was like a thing where they didn't pay their bill to the Liquor Commission, according to reports. They sold off all their stuff in Ferndale. It was clear to me from the reports. Now, I'm not intimately knowledgeable with the business, but so many times they had issues with paying bills. And that's part of just having enough capital on hand to fund operations. And these things all cost a lot of money. The payroll, the servers, all that stuff. And I know that people can work with maybe the best of intentions, but if you don't have that capital behind you, you cannot succeed. And there are just fundamental changes in the economy right now that you just got to catch up with. That if you like them or not, they're here, and the policy decisions are out of the barn, and they've really culminated to where we are now. And it's something that I'm definitely going to investigate and explore, because it's going to have a huge impact on Detroit and a huge impact on the kind of investments we're seeing. I ran an interview recently with Hillary Doe, head of the Chief Growth Office, saying it's startups, it's founders, it's people interested in growing something that are the ones that they're seeing moving to Detroit. And there's a vibe shift that's been building, but it feels like, Devin, and I know you just said goodbye to your last Leadership Detroit class from your last job, but it feels like that vibe shift is here.
It is. It's part of growing up. It's part of kind of moving on, making the next chapter. And I reiterate, like it's not a bad thing. Sometimes this separates. We talk a lot about entrepreneurs and small business owners, and I think the willingness, savvy to navigate and take on private equity or to kind of get involved in that sometimes separates a small business owner from an entrepreneur. And there's nothing wrong with either. Both can be successful in their own ways. But I think, that's kind of the difference I look at. Is like, are you an entrepreneur? Is that your goal? Or are you an entrepreneur? Or are you just a small business owner and you have your place that you want to kind of caretake and make sure you're hands-on, it's the best? And maybe sometimes you start off as a small business owner and you shift into becoming an entrepreneur as you grow your business empire in your own way. So that's the way I would look at it is, think to yourself, are you an entrepreneur or are you a small business owner? Because entrepreneurs have that kind of extra lever in them that says, I'm going to go get the money when I can. I'm going to grow. I'm going to expand. You got to have money to make money. It's as simple as that. And so some people are going this route. I wouldn't begrudge anyone who goes this route, but it's not going to be for everybody.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about, how the pace of things is going to increase. And I think this lines up with that prediction. I'll say personally, it's really tough. This is year 8 of Daily Detroit. And I love what I do. But, it's difficult to do the same thing and the resources are tight, right? And it makes things like there's a personal toll of so many business owners that I have seen that people, rightfully so, if you're, think about if you're running a bakery and you're up every morning at, 4 a.m. to be in there for 6, or you name the challenge. It's something where if you want something that's sustainable and bigger than yourself, you have to think bigger than yourself. You know what I mean? And I know that doesn't feel as intimate, but I think depending on how you do it, there's responsible ways to make that happen.
Yeah, I think so, Jerry. I mean, hey, there may be a time where you're having this conversation about your own business in Daily Detroit, and I think as long as you don't lose who you are in the process, or lose what you've built, or lose the soul of what it is, just because you have more money doesn't mean you're going to lose your soul. That doesn't necessarily stand to reason. So I just have to have that North Star and have that kind of moral compass. And I think, doing something like this, going this route is perfectly fine. Yeah,
because things take money. And that's why I'm going to say right now, join us as a member on Patreon, patreon.com/Daily Detroit. Every dollar goes to producing the show, the newsletter, the projects that we're doing. I also want to tease that on Saturday, I will be from 10:30 or so on till about 2. Tickets are sold out, but there will be a live stream link. I will be co-moderating a Detroit mayoral debate at the Eastside Community Network. Looking forward to that conversation. I know there's a lot of interest with candidates and things. So that's something where we're supporting Outlier Media and ECN on that. So just want to give people that heads up. Look for links on social media or in your email. With that, I am Jer Stays.
I'm Devin O'Reilly. It was good to talk to you again, Jer. It's been too long.
Yeah, it's been way too long. Let's not let that happen too often, okay? I miss you, my friend.
We'll get back into it.
All right. Well, with that, thank you so much for listening. That is it for the week. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll talk on Monday.